Hello, friends and families. Welcome to the EDUCA DPS podcast, where we inform families and connect communities. I am your host, Javier Ibarra. Today, in the EDUCA DPS studio, we have Elise Henson, Executive Director of My Friend Ben with the Gary Community Ventures. Elise, welcome to the EDUCA DPS podcast. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I want to ask, how long have you worked with My Friend Ben? What is the most gratifying thing about the work that you do?
Yeah, so I have been at Gary Community Ventures, which is where this program is incubated for about 3 years. And I've been working on this project, My Friend Ben, for about 6 months. And the best thing about it, which we can get into in the conversation, is we hear directly from families who have gotten a lot of benefit from using this tool that I'll describe.
I want to give our community members and listeners a little quick background. We've actually hosted another show, part of the Gary community, right? The Gary world.
Yep.
And so there are many benefits that program or that venture is giving to our families. So I wanted to highlight that for our audience. About the topic today, My Friend Ben was created by the Gary Community Ventures, the legacy of Colorado philanthropist Sam and Nancy Gary. Finding benefits and tax credits just got easier. Our guest Elise, we're going to hear from a little bit more, will share with us, with our DPS community, how My Friend Ben checks eligibility for more than 40 government benefits and tax credits so that you can make and plan before you apply. Tell us more about My Friend Ben.
Yeah, so this is a free online tool. It takes about 6 minutes to go through, and basically what it's doing, you're answering a set of basic questions about your household, and then you get a report of, as you just said, those 40 programs that are government benefits. That's things like childcare, rental assistance, utilities, food programs, all sorts of things like that might be helpful for folks in the community. You get a quick sense of which of those your household is eligible for and how much each of those, the cash value for your household. So you get a real sense of, from this particular program, over the course of a year, I could expect $2,000. We also tell you how long it takes to apply and the next steps to go ahead and apply.
For our folks that are watching this on our YouTube channel, I want to include that website, which is www.myfriendben.org, and we'll put this on the show notes for our listeners who are listening to on our podcast. I want to ask, who should use My Friend Ben, right? There's a lot of folks that would love to get tax benefits, but who is this geared towards?
Yes. So really it's for everyone. There's so much in there that we find that folks, even who might think they're not eligible for things, are really surprised when they get their report at the end that there's things that they didn't know about. It's also really comprehensive, and so people might be familiar with SNAP or TANF or some of the big sort of federal benefit programs, and we have a lot of things they might not know about, like, as I said, utilities assistance and things like that. So we really see it as a tool that's helpful for everyone. It's particularly helpful if you've just had a big life change. So if you had a baby, if you lost your job, if you have an injury so you can't work for a while, it's really helpful in those situations because that's when you might need a little extra support to meet your basic needs.
And are there any special programs included specifically just for parents?
Yeah, so we, Gary and My Friend Ben has a real focus on families, especially families with young kids and families that are in school. So we have a lot of programs in there. Again, there's like childcare, universal preschool, things that help pregnant and breastfeeding mothers. So there's lots and lots of programs that are particularly helpful for families with kids. We know that the cost of living in Colorado is rising all the time. It's really hard for families to pay their bills. And so a lot of these programs can help sort of offset some of that stress by giving a little extra cash every month.
I think we'll go into this in a little bit, but I kind of want to ask, why have you been involved in this specifically, right? Why, it sounds like a really amazing thing. We have a saying here at DPS, it's called feed your cup or fill your cup, right? And so we fill our cup every time that we get to interact with students. Is that similar for you?
Totally, and that's the beautiful thing about this team that I work on is we always start with families. So the whole genesis of this project was that we were in conversations with Colorado families and they said, I don't know what supports are out there. If I want to find out, I'm going to like 12 different websites. I'm reading this really dense like government language and trying to figure out, am I eligible for this? Is it worth my time? How much money would I get if I actually applied for this? And so it's those conversations with families who have a real need and whose need we're meeting is totally what fills my cup.
It sounds like we have similar interests, because we too focus on the families, right? We focus on students, on families. And so it sounds like this program and DPS have a lot in common.
Totally.
And that's why we have you here on the show today.
That's right.
I want to ask, what can people expect when they go to MyFriendBen?
Yeah, so folks can go to myfriendben.org. Again, you can do that on your phone, on a computer, anywhere you have internet access. And you'll answer this set of short questions about your household. So we ask things like income, number of children, how many folks are living in the household. We ask about common expenses like rent and childcare. And so you answer those questions. It takes about 5 to 6 minutes, so it's really not a lot of time. And then at the end, you get this personalized report that says, okay, you, Javier, you are eligible for childcare assistance, for utilities, for food programs. Here's how much each one is worth. Here's how long it's going to take you to apply. We know that some of these programs can take a long time to apply.
It tells you that.
Yeah, so it's really helpful for folks to say, well, this one doesn't take that long and I know I can get a lot of value, or this program's going to take me a long time to apply and it might not be worth my time. So we want to just give families the information so they can make decisions for themselves about what makes sense to do. And then for each program, we'll either connect you to a link so folks can go ahead and apply directly for the program, or they can choose to be connected with a navigator organization. And so those folks can sit down with you in person or over the phone and help you actually apply for the program.
Going along with that, with more than the obvious, why are the benefits and tax credits so important for our families?
Yeah, so I would say two things. One that I've sort of already touched on is just that it's really expensive to raise kids in Colorado right now. And so when people go through the tool, they're finding like $1,500 a month in programs available. That's
a
the
game
average.
changer.
That's a total game changer. And then there's annual tax credits that are another few $1,000s. So it's a really meaningful boost to a family's budget is the first thing. And the second is that we have done the research and there's like millions and millions and millions of dollars in Colorado that the government has put aside to help families and households that need support that's being left on the table every year because people don't know they're eligible, they don't know how to apply, the whole process feels confusing and frustrating. And we think that people should not be getting access. They shouldn't be being prevented from accessing what they need just because it's so hard to figure out what's out there. So that's what this tool does, is it really simplifies it for families. It says, here's what you could get, and here's your sort of plan.
And along with leaving money on the table, it sounds like MyFriendBen helps reduce the friction, which is the likelihood of you applying and getting the money, or the tax benefit, or whatever benefit you're going to be receiving, is greatly increased as long as you reduce the friction, right? And is that?
I think, that's true up to a point. So we rely on these navigation partners who are the ones who can really reduce that friction on the application side. Otherwise, there are some programs where, the application part we don't have control over. And so that part can still be frustrating and time consuming. But yeah, that's the goal, is at least for the front door to these programs, it's like a much kinder, quicker, easier experience for families.
Before we get too far along in this podcast, I do want to ask, who is Ben?
Yeah, so Ben stands for benefits. But we get that question a lot, and we get a lot of jokes when we hear back from users about like, hey Ben, and hey friends of Ben. So it's just meant to make it a more friendly persona so that people feel like they have someone by their side as they're trying to figure things out.
I really like that. Thanks for clarifying that. I thought it was maybe named after someone.
Right.
A great Ben, Benjamin Franklin. I don't know. Okay, going on to our next question. What do you hear from our families that use MyFriendBen?
Yeah, so we talk to families on a weekly basis. We're doing phone interviews, we do text surveys, we sit down with folks, and the first thing we hear is, I like this, it's fast, it's simple, it's anonymous, you don't need to tell us your name or anything that's identifying information about you. You can save your results without ever doing that.
Okay.
So they like that it's anonymous, they like that it's really flexible. So Again, we don't ask people's citizenship status, for example, because we know that's a sensitive question.
Yes,
but we
absolutely.
do have filters, so you get to the end and there's a whole list of programs, and you can use these really nuanced filters to say, well, someone in my household doesn't have citizenship status, someone has a green card, and you can use that to figure out what is still available to your family. So they like that it's fast, it's easy, it's anonymous. And they are surprised by what's out there, as I said. So 80% of folks that we talk to say that they found a new benefit by using the tool, even people who have been accessing other benefits for years.
And what is the impact for that?
Yeah, so over 11,000 Colorado households have used this tool so far.
11,000.
Yeah,
Wow.
so hundreds of folks are coming to the site every day, and hundreds of households are getting their sort of benefits result every week. And as I said, it's the financial impact. So it's $1,500 a month to a family budget.
What makes My Friend Ben different from other resources? I assume that there are several maybe search engines or survey type
Yeah.
things. What makes My Friend Ben different from the rest?
Yeah. So this is really the only place in Colorado you can go to get a one-stop shop for like 40 programs in one place. Otherwise, you might find a few because they're run by different agencies. Some are nonprofit programs.
It varies from county to county.
It varies from county to county, exactly. So this is really the only place you can go to get that full understanding. And it's the sort of like showing the cash value being really super accurate. That's just unusual in tools like this. Usually it's more of like a list of resources that's not personalized to your household.
Why did you or group of folks decide to make or create My Friend Ben? What was the driving force behind that?
Yeah, so I sort of alluded to this, but we were in conversation with a group of about 100 families over the course of a year. We had sort of a family advisory group, and we were talking to them about challenges in their lives, opportunities, and we were asking about their experience accessing benefits. And we just heard over and over, like, I don't even know whether it's worth my time to do the research, much less to apply. Like, it's confusing, it's frustrating, it feels demoralizing because
Absolutely.
I mean, it's so good. Like the eligibility rules for these programs are really complex, and trying to figure that out across a bunch of programs just felt totally demoralizing to families. And so we were like, this feels like a thing that there might be a technical solution or a tool that we could make that would help make this easier for families. And that was our real motivation. So we built it in conversation with those families. We had them test it. We continue to invite families into our office to test the tool all the time as we make it better.
And how long has this been around?
Yeah, so we did early testing at the beginning of last year, and we're about a year into it being sort of like fully out there for the public.
So this isn't like second year, third year, fourth year. This is
we're
a
like
year, 18 months.
Exactly.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay. So I'm glad that we have you early on before it becomes too popular. And then,
Right, yeah.
And then, you say no to us.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what can people expect from you next? And do you have a final message for us about this program, something that we didn't have an opportunity to talk about?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's next for us is we want more and more folks in Colorado to use this tool. And so DPS families should use this tool. Folks should go use it, tell their friends and family about it.
Yes.
For community partners, we have a lot of community partners who are either sitting down with clients and using this in person or putting up flyers or putting it on their website, things like that. So any organizations or folks who are involved in community organizations should get in touch with us. And then the one other thing I didn't say about the tool that I think I should is just that it also has some lists of immediate needs. So we know you might be applying for a food program, for example, but you might not actually receive that cash for 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
30 days.
Yeah. So we include food banks, diaper banks, things like that. So as folks go through the tool, they can click on things that they have a more immediate needs, and we also provide that list.
That's huge, and it's huge for our families because the resources exist.
Yeah.
Right, and we talk about this. The whole point of our EDUCA DPS podcast is to bring families and resources together under the umbrella of DPS.
Yeah.
And so, but if families don't know,
Right.
and they don't, and if there's a lot of friction,
Right.
they don't go and
Totally.
seek those out, even if they may benefit
Yes.
from the resource. So I really appreciate you coming on
Yeah.
the show today. And for our friends listening and watching, I just want to reiterate that website, www.myfriendben.org. This concludes our EDUCA DPS podcast for today. I want to thank our guest, Elise Henson, for this very important information. We would like to ask our audience to please share this episode of the EDUCA DPS podcast with your relatives, your friends, and our great DPS community. For this and more DPS multimedia productions and content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Denver Public Schools Plus. We're also on all of the main podcast platforms. Just look for the Denver Public Schools podcast. A big thank you to our communications department and our proud superintendent of Denver Public Schools, Dr. Alex Marrero, for the support to EDUCA and all of our multimedia productions. Please remember to tell your children more often. And Elise, can you help me with this?
Sure.
Ready?
I believe in you,
and I know you can do it. Until next time.